Hey, fraud and audit friends and family. Imagine being tricked into paying for something that doesn't exist. You're sitting at home, you get a call from someone claiming that you owe money for something you purchased, but you vaguely remember it. It kind of feels familiar, but you can't quite place it. Has this ever happened to you? And what would you do? Tens of thousands of people simply pay up without asking questions. So, if that has ever happened to you, stick around because you're going to like today's story where we talk about the non existent subscriptions. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
Hey, what's going on, people? So, you heard the intro. What would you do if you just got a call out of the blue saying that you owed money for something that you don't even remember purchasing? How would this affect you and how would you handle this situation? So, without further ado, let's just bring her up.
Hello, everybody. Wearing my
Yes.
beautiful orange earrings because our high school won their first football game. Well, no, they're second. They're second. First home game. last night.
Nice. So, let me just tell you, I went to the doctor recently. Nothing major, at least I don't think. At least I don't hope.
Okay.
But when you normally go into a doctor's waiting room, what do you used to see?
Oh, well, yeah, they're magazines. I was always big, like, because I always remember, like, the teen ones, because my mom would never buy them for me, but they would have them in the doctor's offices. So, yeah, no, those or do you remember the highlights magazines from when we were younger?
Yes.
Those were my favorite. They should bring those back if they don't still have them.
Somehow I imagine it's probably on the internet nowadays.
Probably.
Yeah, yeah. So I walk inside this doctor's office, and it's been a while since I've been in one, especially since now I'm no longer dying. But we already talked about when I thought I was dying a couple of years ago. That was pretty serious, and but walk into this doctor's office, and I look around, and not a single magazine in sight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Not even their like health magazines. Like I know we have some doctors' offices that are part of like Bell and Health and stuff like that. So they've got like their own little set of magazines that teach people about preventative care.
Not a
You are
single
right.
magazine.
Like they don't have Cosmopolitan or In Style or what's the housekeeping one?
Good Housekeeping or something like that.
Mhm.
And then Better Homes and Gardens.
Yes, that one.
Yeah. So let us know, when's the last time you actually picked up and read a magazine? Because I didn't know if I should be disappointed or happy that there were no magazines in the doctor's office.
I'm just laughing because I did. I read a magazine 2 days ago. Can you guess which one it was?
Um, Martha Stewart?
No, it was the IIA
The
magazine.
IIA magazine.
I was going through all the trainings that are coming up. I'm going, where do I want to go this year? What are they offering that's something I might be interested in? I don't know.
Wait, they still mail out physical copies of the IIA magazine?
This is the first one I got in over a year. But it was the magazine because all of a sudden I'm like, figuring I don't think I paid for an additional subscription. I'm wondering if it's because of me transferring companies with me having to switch my membership. Was it something since I signed up again? I don't know. But no, it was their magazine, and then it was the magazine with all their training schedules. It's like all
Oh,
their
wow.
virtual Yeah, I mean, the book for the training was small, but you could go through and pick which ones were virtual, which ones were in person. They essentially gave you everything that's available.
Wow.
I just
Now
think it's ironic then. We're
it
talking
is very ironic. Now Brent is saying that he reads the Fraud magazine. Okay. Okay. So I'm not the only one who still kind of sees magazines. So my mom has a ton of magazines. And every time I look at them, I'm like, can can you just get rid of them? So I made that suggestion to her one time. I don't know if she's done anything with it, but the last time I was at I made that suggestion to her, and she said that she needed the magazines because she had dog-eared certain pages that she may want to go back to.
which you never do.
Right, right. And I mean, nowadays you could just Google everything, right? And Brent's making a good point. This is one of the magazines that she has, the AARP magazine, which I guess in a few years I'll be able to get it. Wow.
I we get it at our house because my husband.
Oh boy,
My
I might
husband
be
gets
able
it
to
at
get
our
it
house.
now then.
Yeah, because my husband's what, 2 years younger than you? Well, not necessarily. Today is his birthday. Happy birthday, Jim.
Oh boy.
So he's only a year younger than you, technically.
Very interesting.
So
Very,
yeah,
very
we've
interesting.
been getting it. Maybe it's 45.
Mm. Well, let's just say I've not read a magazine in quite some time. But do you remember back in the day when you would subscribe to magazines and it was always an issue when you wanted to unsubscribe because somehow they either didn't get the notice in the mail because you had to mail stuff back in the day, or they did it wrong and somehow you may have gotten charged for an extra year and then you'd have to go back and make a correction again and again and again? Or is that just me? Anybody else have that issue?
I did have a magazine subscription, but it was always like when I had one or two left in my subscription, like then it felt like there was 12 of those stupid postcards for you to try to re-sign up for the next year.
Right, right. So yeah, the magazine subscriptions were always an interesting thing. Trying to either obtain the subscription, that was easy. They would take your money quickly, but trying to unsubscribe, they would always send you these notices, or they would say, "You have unsubscribed. However, you can continue your subscription for 50% less than the market value," to try and
Right.
get you back, right? My man Gabe is here and he's saying he's using AI to watch this live stream from someone else's live stream. Gabe, my man, good to see you. We got to catch up, man. We really do.
Hmm.
We
I wonder
really
what
do.
that looks like.
Oh, Gabe is just joking. Gabe.
Oh,
All right. All right. So listen, today, today, what we are talking about is a common occurrence, I guess. I didn't realize it was, but scam artists targeted elderly individuals by, for lack of a better word, selling fake magazine subscriptions. Now, we'll get into what I really mean by that in a few moments. The total loss was about $300 million. They have something like 60 guilty pleas, and some people are actually going to prison. But here's what they did: they purchased the names of individuals who were subscribed to certain magazines. And when they purchased this list, they then started making cold calls to these individuals. And the cold calls, they were telling them that they had these huge outstanding balances that they needed to pay off. And they offered a discount in order to pay off those large outstanding balances. So, what do you think, Christine?
as soon as you sent me this, it brought me back to I had to have been 22, 23, and we're sitting outside and we had door-to-door magazine salespeople. And they had all the subscriptions you could get on a laminated sheet of paper and you could sit there and pick it. And I was like, "Oh, discounted price." And I just remember my neighbor saying, "They're just going to scam you out of your money. You're not getting an actual magazine subscription." So that's what this made me think about. But I'm just surprised for how long it went on and how much money they got. Like, how did this go undetected for so long?
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, in one of the articles, I don't think I sent to you because I just found it. They had the actual transcript that they were using, and it guided the workers. So they would present the people and say, hey, you owe money for this magazine. And if you had an objection, they had what to say next. And it just walked them through it. And so what they did was they made false promises. So during the calls, the scammers made enticing offers such as big discounts. And then they assured them that the subscription would provide them with some value. They also had some fake credentials. They used reputable magazines to say that they were a part of that magazine. And then another thing that they did was they told the people that they had these high outstanding balances and that if they wanted to get rid of them, that they could pay a certain amount today to get rid of them. Now, what they did too was they had them pay by a variety of different methods. Some people paid by credit card, some people paid by wire transfer, and they thought that it would make it more difficult to trace those transactions. But what I'm wondering though is if you are an elderly person and we have all this news out about how the elderly are being scammed, um, why didn't anyone just call somebody and say, hey, I don't recall having this magazine? Or better yet, first step is look around your house. Do you still have current issues of this magazine? Because apparently they got an active subscription list. So you know how magazines will sell their list of who's subscribed, right? So do you still have a current issue of this magazine around your house? And then if you do, pick up the magazine and call the 1-800 number that's on the back of the actual magazine. You know, like what happened?
Yeah, I guess I don't know because I'm even sitting here and thinking you would have the transaction history of when you originally paid them, right? I'm guessing if they're elderly individuals, they probably got the carbon copy of the check that they wrote, right?
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, I guess it's less likely to seem like a fraud because at this point they're probably going, who knows what magazine subscriptions I get unless you're delivering my mail, so I could see how they could fall into that. Um, yeah, I honestly, I feel bad for the individuals because I can't sit here and be like, oh, if I had a magazine subscription, I think I probably would fight it more and be like, no,
right?
I don't owe you. I mean, at what
Yeah,
point would you sit there and go, all right, I don't think people are ballsy enough to sit there and say, all right, put it on my credit report. I'll deal with it if you can put it on my credit report. Cause I think people are so tied to their credit reports and their credit score and worried it's going to tank it that they're willing to sit there and be like, all right, well, I'll pay you. I mean, I don't know how much the average one was that they were paying, but it sounded like some of these people were duped out of like $1,000 a month.
yeah. We'll get to that in just one moment, the exact amounts. Let's go to our audience though. So now Gabe said he did that with Columbia House where he got 12 CDs for a penny and then forgot to cancel, right? And then the CDs just kept coming and coming. But Gabe also says, do you think he can create a new Ponzi scheme selling DVDs and CDs again to Gen Xers? I don't know. I think Gen Xers might be a little too smart for that, you know?
I think their first question to you would be, you're still in business?
Right? That would be a very good and legitimate question. And my man Dan Freidenberg is here. Dan, if you guys don't know Dan, Dan is a real estate guy and Dan plays chess with people while he's doing his podcast. It is pretty doggone cool. And I
Really?
will never go on his podcast because he would literally wipe the floor with me in chess because I have not played in years. And now Dan is saying Patreons would be a modern subscription like that. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's a website that allows you to set up a subscription-based service so that you can actually build your community and provide some sort of whatever you provide to them in a subscription-based model. It's really good, but he's right. That would be kind of like the equivalent of that. But if you guys don't know Dan, you got to check him out playing chess. He's actually pretty good. Don't tell him I said that, but I guess he can hear it on this live stream.
I'm writing it down. I will check out Dan's podcast.
Hey Dan, drop in the name of it. I can't remember now. My mind is just going blank. But so back to one of your earlier points though, Christine, the fraud took place from 2008 until 2020. And they're saying that they were able to scheme nearly $86.6 million out of people from that time period.
That's a hustle. They were committed. They were committed. But even like you said, I don't even know. I could probably ask Copilot. What has the subscription to magazines been? Like, could you imagine these last 5, 6, 7 years, how much they had to hustle to try and keep up that income?
Yep.
I don't know.
I cannot imagine.
Yeah, see, here, I'm sitting here seeing it's a 20 plus year scheme. 20 years. Yeah. I wonder how long it was taking the FBI and the U.S. Postal Inspection to actually research this.
They're also saying that from 2011 to 2020, they came across another 20,000 victims that were allegedly scammed out of $30 million more dollars.
So I know we're talking about 2 individuals. When are you going to let them know how many people are actually involved in this?
Well, I kind of said the number earlier, but I said it really fast. There were a total of 60 individuals involved. And they had these, and I was about to use the word sophisticated. I don't know how sophisticated they were, but they had these call centers set up. And so one of the companies was based out of Florida. So they would get the list of people who had magazine subscriptions, and they had these, I don't know if they were sophisticated call centers or if the people were working at home, but they had these call center agents who were working for them. And when you look at the list of people, some of them have prison terms already, and some of them have yet to be actually sentenced. But it was 60 people, I believe, in total, or 58, I believe, in total. And I saw the list of names and the terms that they have, and right now I can't find it. But back to one of Christine's earlier points, some victims had more than $1,000 in monthly charges for the services that they were receiving, or better yet, services that they were not receiving, which goes back to why I named this one the non-existent subscription. How could you pay $1,000 a month for something that you didn't know that you had? And better yet, who has $1,000 a month extra to pay on anything on top of everything that you have to pay nowadays?
I was incorrect. Overall trends of magazine subscriptions remained over 220 million each year between 2016 and 2020.
Really?
Having previously hovered around 210, 215 million. The impact of COVID, despite COVID, many of the largest U.S. magazines retain 95% of their circulation.
I never would have guessed.
And then their digital, because they now have you said your digital subscription circulations actually increased nearly 70% just from 2019 to 2021. So could they still be doing that because of the digital?
Wow.
I'm
just floored.
But I mean, I guess I don't know. I guess you wouldn't consider like the Wall Street Journal wouldn't be a magazine. That would be a newspaper unless they're lumping all that in.
I would think it would be still considered. Well, it's a magazine subscription to the Wall Street. You know what? That's a very good question. Now, Gabe is asking, were these baby boomers mostly? I think so because they said the elderly, and I don't consider myself elderly yet. I mean, I'm getting,
We're
I'm
looking.
getting there. The
I always
gray
talk
hair.
up because I don't even know which one I'm in. I think I'm in between.
Ah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. And I'm kind of with Gabe. Wait, I don't know which piece Gabe is saying is shocking, the piece that people are still actually buying magazines or the part that a lot of people are still getting scammed for it. But I am just yeah, shocked. Ah, somebody saying my mom loves her magazines in the mail. Shreya says I'm very close to being in assisted living. You know what? If I could go, I would go today to assisted living. Not having to do anything for myself, but just sit there and I don't know, play shuffleboard, maybe even chess. Maybe I could practice chess and be able to beat Dan one day.
You need to have Suri on one of these days.
Who?
You need to have Suri on.
Oh, on the show? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know. Oh, okay. Now, Brennan's saying elderly is not a bad thing, although senior sounds better. You know what? I do like the word senior
Mhm.
a little bit better. And Mike Hurst says, I think people sign up for things and set it and forget it. But yeah, 1K a month is nuts unless you're an 8-figure earner. Yeah. And these were not, from what I can tell, 8-figure earners.
No.
Mike said he's glad you said the name because he didn't want to. I mean,
Oh,
he's glad Shree said it because he didn't want to.
right.
Oh my
I wonder
goodness.
how much they had to pay for these lists.
You know, let's think about this now. This is pretty standard operating procedure because whether it's a magazine subscription or Facebook selling our information, or remember the latest scandal where Netflix and Facebook were together getting our DMs or our
Mhm.
Facebook messages. So selling data is big business. As a matter of fact, that is how Facebook made a majority of its money in the early days, especially when the ad platform was ramping up. So it's a pretty common practice, and I'm assuming that this comes with a pretty hefty price tag if entire businesses could be built off of it.
It's, I mean, I know I don't know when it's coming in, but they just put in regulation for, so like when you do your mortgage application online, right? Like you have to give individual express consent for those companies to essentially reach out and try to find you a mortgage loan.
Right.
They
Yeah.
can't just sell the lists. Um, but I remember that coming up and having conversations because there's mortgage companies that pay for these lists, right? How many of these mortgage companies do you think validate that they're not getting recycled list information?
Ooh.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like you go to Rocket Mortgage, then you get put on this list, right? Well, who knows if Rocket Mortgage is sending that to 10 different companies in 6 months or a year, they just don't re-put those people on from a year ago and charge you because they're charging you per lead. Great. Now I just uncovered a new scam, right?
That's a good question though. I'm sitting here. I'm sure you can see, the smoke coming from my head because I'm thinking about this. Wow, that is, excuse me, pretty interesting. Now Brent says over 60 seniors, elderly, are in a protected class, and that triggers elder/senior abuse, fraud, and exploitation. Which brings me to a point though. What do you all think the two biggest people in this were actually charged with? What do you think they were charged with? Because we always have our favorites, right? what do you think they were charged with? Now, while I'm giving people an opportunity to guess that, so here's here's what happened. The people would call the cancellation department when they got notice to try and cancel these magazine subscriptions. And they're saying that the amounts that they were told they owed were anywhere from $199 to $507.
Ooh.
Yeah. I just couldn't imagine forking out that kind of money without verifying or validating. And I guess this one was really a numbers game. If you think about it, the more people you have that you're calling, the more successful, the more people you have that you're calling, you're not necessarily looking for a high churn rate. Like you don't
Right.
have to be 80% successful because you have so many names.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even that, I mean, the people that are working the call centers, right? Let's say their goal is to start out at, okay, you owe us $299, right? Their boss isn't going to care if they go, all right, we'll settle it for 99. They're not getting in trouble. They're still
Right.
making money. So, I mean, as your boss Bob coming down the call center line going, all right, what do we got? And you got like Joe over here who's like closed one collection at $5.99 for the last 5 hours, or do you got Sue over there in the corner who's closed 20 of them at $99? They don't care as long as they're getting their money.
Right, because some money is better than no money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Gabe says he canceled his Playboy subscription when the internet blew up. He used to read it for the articles, though, just for the articles, because there was some groundbreaking articles. Now, Mike says mail fraud always. Gabe says fraud and racketeering. And Brent, mail fraud, wire fraud. Brent, ding, ding, ding. That's it. It's, mail fraud, wire fraud. And yeah. The one thing that I can't find, though, is how much, and I couldn't find how much money were they able to recover to possibly give back to some of the victims. And I couldn't find that. I've been looking for it because this is actually an older story, and now it's kind of come to a conclusion where there's been sentencing and stuff. So I don't know.
Because they didn't even
I
talk
don't
about
know.
restitution.
Yeah, I didn't see that either. And that's what I found weird, because usually when we find these stories, you guys, usually it's, hey, this is how much they were ordered to pay in restitution. This is how much prison time they're going to get. Here's how many assets they were able to recover. And some of those assets will be up for auction and you can go and buy some of them. But I didn't see any of that. But you know what? Before we get too far, here's one thing I do want to say. And I say this all the time when we have something with elderly. Elderly are getting scammed mostly because they are lonely, because people like us who have elderly people in our lives aren't calling them to check on them and talk to them. If you have an elderly relative or friend, just pick up the phone and call them, ask them what's going on in their day. I used to call my grandmothers whenever I could before they died. Both are dead now, but just pick up the phone and call, because they might tell you something that might let you know that someone is trying to scam them, and then maybe you can intercede, because oftentimes they entertain these telephone calls because they just want somebody to talk to. And why not have it be us instead of some stranger trying to steal from them?
Mm-hmm. Well, Mulder, the one that's going to be staying the longest in prison, I think. He's 63. So he's going to be in there. Diallo, the one out of Montreal, Quebec, because this was out of the US, Canada, and the Philippines for all 60-some people that were involved. He's 36. He's been doing this since he was 26. Wow. Because he started getting involved in 2011.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at what you just said. For anybody who's watching this and they if they saw me just laugh after Christine said what she just said, that would seem so insensitive. But I'm not laughing at Christine. Let me just show you guys what I'm talking about. Because
He's
I
not.
just said, if you know someone who's elderly, they just reach out to them because they just want to hear from you. And Gabe said, "I'll call you tonight, Robert, so you're not alone." So
You're a better friend than I am, Gabe. I only check in with him once a week, and it happens to be 2 o'clock on every Friday.
oh my goodness. Oh,
Which reminds me, I
so
probably
yeah.
need to dye my hair so people don't think I'm old. I'm just waiting to get called out on that. I only got a couple more years left.
You know, I used to dye the facial hair, and I still do sometimes just when I feel like it. But you know,
Eh.
now
Eh.
now Mike is saying his grandmother has started to get scammed a lot. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Unlock, hijack computers. Yeah, my mom had one of those recently, and I just I don't know. Yeah, and Gabe, if you call me, man, we'll have a good loan conversation. I can tell you about how it was in the good old days. All right.
Oh, I found the list of defendants, their plea.
Yeah, I had it and then I just lost it.
They even got it in alphabetical order. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Like these are their pleas. Guilty. 2 people were found guilty at trial. All of them, they're sentencing. Oh, this person got off with 3 years supervised release, 2 years supervised released.
Yeah, I had found that list and I just lost it sitting here trying to prepare.
Oh, this person's got a supervised release violation hearing where
Ooh.
they had it in January.
You know, for the one who started when he was in his 20s, you've got to wonder, how do you get recruited for something like that? You know, like, hey, I've got a great career option for you.
Well, I mean, we've been seeing it right now where people have been getting scammed into quitting their jobs and starting these new remote jobs. Well, look at what we had at the fraud retreat, where we were being shown these huge things where all of a sudden people are like, yeah, I'm gonna go overseas and work. And as soon as you get there, they take your passport and they put you to work and they don't let you leave, right?
True.
Um, so it does make me wonder how many of these individuals thought they were working a regular job and working a collections job. You're not going to know, right? And like we were talking about Bob and Sue in the corner, I was making up names. Like if your boss sat there and said, if you can at least collect 25% of what their outstanding balance is, how is that any different than any other collection agency that takes, do you know what I'm saying? I mean, collection agencies collect stuff pennies on the dollar because they buy it for pennies on the dollar. So
Fair
they could
point.
have been lying to these individuals. That's my thought. I mean, you're for this to go on that long, I don't think all 60 of those individuals would have had to have known this was a scam.
That's a fair point.
I mean, they could have. I just find it hard to believe that it would go on for 20 years if you had that many people that knew about it.
Yeah. And that's what really baffled me about it, you know? All right. So, if you have just joined us today, we're talking about the non existent subscriptions where many people, mostly elderly, were scammed out of money due to magazine subscriptions that they did not owe money for and did not currently have. The dollar amount is staggering. The length of time that it occurred is staggering as well. Over 60 people were charged and are now facing the consequences of this fraud. Total dollar amount was about $300 million as far back as 2008. Insane. All right. Have we missed anything, Christine? Anything else we need to?
I'm never signing up for a subscription again.
Not even a digital subscription?
No, I haven't. I don't have a digital subscription. I mean, other than like, I think I have one streaming service. My husband carries the other ones, but um, I mean, the only thing that I'm kind of like, oh, I wish I did was like when you send me articles and stuff, and it's like, you need a subscription to finish reading, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know how much money I would be out every single month if I signed up for all of this just so I could get the story for Friday. So I kind of gotta hold back on that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And I maybe someday, who knows? Maybe when I become older.
You can get
And I'm
the
retired.
AARP magazine.
Right. And I like retire or something then, or I don't know, like I've got younger children. I work full time. I have zero hobbies and interests right now, other than sports, getting children to work, school. Yeah. I'll let you know. I'll let you know in like 5 years.
Now, Brent is saying, check out how the internet godfather turned his life around. I think I don't. I think I may have seen that before, if I'm not mistaken. But all right. So thank you all for joining us this week on episode number one. Wait, is that right? 155? I think that may be a typo. It might be 165. Anyway, of the Friday Fraudster, and we will see you all next week.
Have a good one.